Wonderful. Okay. So, my apologies. We got interrupted last time. Someone wanted to use the studio space. So, yeah. I've just a quick listen back. I was essentially just complaining about the idea of meat eating being purely a corporate enterprise. That's an idea that seems to be pushed a lot in this. And it's just not true. People have eaten meat for thousands of years, and that's just for the fact that we can identify us as people. Animals have been eating meat for millions of years. Why deny that? Why assume that the only reason meat is consumed is because of corporate greed? The economy didn't exist at the time. Money didn't exist when we started eating meat. So there's no greed factor or power factor involved there. It was survival. That's why we eat meat. So again, another argument of yours blown off the table. You're so eager to convince people that you are right, that you have the right point of view. You're so eager to convince people to conform to your way of doing things that you're not really thinking about what you're saying. Because essentially what you're saying is, rather than putting forward the idea that you think that now, given scientific... I'm creating a straw man again, and I apologise for doing so, but it seems the best way to put forward a progressing argument in this case. Because you may never respond to this video at all, Gary Yourofsky. I don't expect you to. I don't expect you to even watch this. But to anyone that supports Gary Yourofsky, who might watch this or listen to it, to anyone that thinks that Gary Yourofsky has a point, think about placing any other cultural artifact that you hold to be normal in the place of animals, and break it down in the same ways that he is doing, and you can see inconsistencies. You can see how the way it's broken down essentially demystifies what we hold as these cultural artifacts. Running, as an example, I mean, it's going to be a very poor example, and I'm just taking it off the top of my head, but the concept of running, moving quickly, moving more quickly than other creatures, perhaps. Still moving slowly than other creatures, because of course other creatures are allowed to move faster. But, yeah, why should humans run anymore? We have cars. We have better ways to get about. So why run? Why run at all? It doesn't matter if some people enjoy running. You shouldn't have to run. Yes, we may have run in the past, and yes, it may have been for our survival. But there's no point in running now. We have better ways to get around. We have greener ways to get around. You know, running burns too many calories and things, then you need to eat more food to take care of it and stuff. We've got solar-powered scooters now. So, you know, do the world a favour and stop running. See what I mean? Like, you wouldn't actually want to stop people from running just because of the minor impact that it would have. You don't convince people to stop eating certain vegetables and fruits, even if they're slightly more unhealthy than others. You allow people the free range to do these sorts of things. Now, this is not to say that the large-scale farming that we see in places such as America, and to a certain degree the UK, the scale of farming and the amount of pressure put on people by economic constraints to increase efficiency and thus reduce the amount of care they take towards the animals, that is a problem. And that is something to concentrate on. That's nuance, however. A nuance that you unfortunately lack. Rather than tackling a problem, the abuse of animals, in what we now term abuse of animals, you don't concentrate on that. Or rather, you do, and say that it's indicative of a wider problem of everything's evil, everything's speciesist. Speciesist? I don't know. Everything is racist. Which, in this instance, would be accurate. This would be another race. So, racist. Horses are a different race to humans, or a different race to cows. Bovines and equines and hominids, oh my. I've had to skip around with a video a bit to try and find my place. And I've realised now, after talking for a little bit, that I'm actually at the wrong place. So we're going to go ahead and just watch it, see what unfolds, see what other observations we can make. But I'm hoping I'm making myself clear here. The idea of removing meat as a foodstuff, or the ownership of animals as a cultural thing, is unreasonable to demand of society. This is not to say that there might be some points, but you don't hit any of them. You don't hit the points that you could be making. An argument could be made for considering animals equal to humans. An argument could be made for eating less meat or even no meat. An argument could be made that the domestication of animals could be akin to genocide and putting American Indians in reservations and taking their land away from them. I don't think those later ones have much of a leg to stand on, but an argument could be made for those things. But instead, you're attacking the concept of eating meat and talking about the rights of animals, but you're ignoring the prescient facts of that matter. The fact that a lion eats meat. Lions are animals, and you want to make animals be as natural as you think they should be. Whereas, unfortunately, you and several generations back haven't seen a natural animal at all. There is no animal that exists in isolation. There's no animal... In fact, almost by definition, no animal can exist in isolation. Animals, at the bottom of the ladder, feed on plants. That's the general rule. I mean, some will just feed on rocks and moss. Moss is plants. But yeah, some of them are bottom feeders that just get random nutrients and protein chains and things from just sucking up the air. But generally speaking, at the bottom of the food chain, you have plant eaters, and then you have meat eaters, and then you have us, because we eat omnivores and herbivores. So yeah, carrying on with the video. Skip. Skip. We covered this. No, and again we've covered this. But just to go over it a little bit again, what Gary Yourofsky is essentially going towards with this line of questioning, rhetorical questioning, that is that he's considering animals to be, he's suggesting that animals be considered another race that supposedly straight white men have abused. Okay. If animals have not been enslaved, then what are they? What have they been? Domesticated. I suppose we've already covered this. Moving on. Can slavery have a victim that is neither human nor animal? again, it's going to depend upon your definitions here, because we could define slavery as a human enslaving another human, or a human committing another human to their service without financial compensation. Slavery's a tricky one, because some people are termed slaves and they will have got money, or they would have received some kind of compensation for their services. Most of the time, slaves are fed and housed. So it can be a grey area as to whether or not there's any benefit at all to slavery. There are some people, especially for sexual gratification, part of the BDSM community, who will willingly go into slavery. Now, in a lot of cases, this tends to be purely during sexual encounters, but there are some people who are lifestyle DSs, lifestyle dominance and submission, where a dominant could own one or multiple slaves who will sign contracts. You should sign contracts to turn themselves over to their master. There may or may not be a get-out clause for this, and the master just agrees to look after them like pet. But they're still a person. It depends entirely on the individual if they want to be treated as a person or not. I mean, there will be some overlap with, I can't believe I'm actually legitimizing this while you're mentioning it, but other kin. There will be some people who like to know in their heads that they're still people but pretend to be animals, and then there are other kin. I really don't like the idea of otherkin. I've never met an otherkin, and already the idea of it just sets my teeth on edge, you know. But anyway, again, going off topic, I really need to get a diary or something. Anyway, yeah, definitions is definitely a problem that we're going to come across a lot. I've just had a look at my notes again, and again, we're going to come across definitions of slaughter and murder. You are grouping what we do with animals to what we do with humans, and you're giving examples of bad things we do to humans and saying that, well, we don't like it when it's done to a human, so let's not do it to an animal. And yet you're not revealing why. You make an attempt to, at least one attempt to, and we'll point that out later when it comes up. Can a planet be a victim? To what extent are we extending the term victim? And by extending the term victim to mean lots of other things, or rather to allow lots of other things to be considered victims, are we defining victim by the act that creates the victim? Which, again, is slightly confusing. And beyond that, taking a step further, when something is a victim, and we're defining that by the act set upon it, rather than the results to the victim, are we not lessening the term victim? And so those that are victims as would broadly be defined as victims, as in the majority of the population might agree that yes, that is a victim, such as those as victims of crime. So if, pardon me, let's say for instance that a young gentleman walking down the street gets mugged, or a young lady sitting at home gets her house burgled into. She doesn't even need to be sitting at home, she could be out to the shops. Yeah, so mugging, theft, you could even go to extremes such as, actual violence, people being attacked, molested in various ways. Those are people that I would consider victims. Those that are victims over a longer period as well, such as psychological domestic abuse, things of that nature. Those are people that I would consider victims. I know quite a few that would not want to be considered victims, and would prefer other terms. Some others might want to be called survivors rather than victims, but that kind of dehumanizes the abuse laid upon them. So to make it seem like they survived an avalanche. You're not a victim. I suppose you could be a victim of an avalanche from a certain point of view, but I'd say that's more poetry. That's more a poetic use of the language rather than anything else. So yeah, I suppose we should move on. We're getting hung up on the fact that we're not clearly defining our terms, and so Gary, you're being very ambiguous, and I don't quite get what you're getting at with this. I'm not quite sure where your lines are. I know what you're trying to get across, that you're trying to lump humans in with animals, and so that we consider all the things that we consider bad for humans to be bad for animals as well. But that just doesn't quite work, because we associate lots of things with the definition of human, especially these days in these sort of neo-libertarian times. We consider all human beings to have the same rights. And if they don't currently have those rights under the law, those rights are just assumed anyway, and the law will follow suit. Things like gay marriage. The general population just assumed that that was an okay thing, that it was fine for gay people to get married, and it just took a while for the law to catch up. Around the world, there'll be different situations, people at different levels, so to speak. That's if you consider cultural and social, political evolution as a linear set. But again, that's kind of false. We see history as this linear thing, and it's always a progression. And unfortunately, we haven't learned the lesson that the Dark Ages weren't just a slump. They weren't just us going backwards a little bit. That was still progression. That was still evolution of our society. And we just got rid of some things and gained other things. Like mysticism, which we had before, but we just kind of had a lot more of it. And we got things wrong on the scientific front. Let's carry on. Oh dear. Slaughterhouse. It feels like every 2 or 3 seconds, every sentence that he says, there's a problem. There's something wrong with it. And so I apologise with how long this is taking. And I realise I'm dragging it out by making these apologies and these asides and things, but I really feel like I'm able to clarify my position more by sharing these things. So if that's not the case, you're screwed. So we're needing to define our terms. Like, yes, slaughterhouse is a house of slaughter. Yeah, let's take it one step at a time. Yes, a slaughterhouse is a house of slaughter. Do you have a problem with that? Would you have a problem with it if it wasn't called a slaughterhouse? Why would you not? Or why would you if it wasn't called a slaughterhouse? The fact that it's called a slaughterhouse shouldn't really make a difference with what it actually is and the problem you have with it. But unfortunately, you're picking up on that point, which means that this is the point that's important to you. You've got a 70-minute lecture here, and you're not streamlining everything. I realise this is the pot calling the kettle black. I've made some notes, and I'm not sticking to the notes exclusively. And I've not made notes for the whole video, so the rest of it's going to be crazy. But I'm fine being hypocritical on this point because I'm just some random dude, and you're trying to build yourself up to be like, I'm fucking Gary Yourofsky. I've been arrested 10 times. I've spent 77 days in solitary confinement. Fuck you, bitches. So you know that you're setting yourself up. I'm just taking easy shots, basically. Thanks to the internet. So yeah, what do you mean by slaughter? What do you mean by this is a house of slaughter? What point are you trying to get to there? Yes, it's a slaughterhouse. It is a house of slaughter. Animals get killed there. Animals' lives end. They are chopped up into pieces, made into edible bits, sent out around the world. We eat animals. There's no problem with that. Is there a problem with killing things to eat them? Because I've got some news for you. Vegetables are alive too. And I know that there's the cry of, oh, but they're different, they're not in the same order. Right, that's kingdomism. You are being prejudiced against plants just because they're different to you. And more alien than animals are. And I think this is where the crux of the problem lies. You're seeing a baby lamb with its big eyes staring at you and going, oh, I need you, because that's a biologically programmed thing into it. And you'll go, oh, but they've got personalities because there's always one that goes off to the side and just kind of goes, I don't need you. Well, yeah. Living things have personalities. Plants have personalities. Just don't ask any botanist because someone will just be doing it for a job. But speak to botany scientists, florologists. Don't know what the term is. But flower scientists, the ones that found out that flowers grow better when they listen to heavy metal music and Robert Plant. The ones that identified that when you cut grass, that smell that you smell, the fresh cut grass smell, those are hormones, I think. Oh, hormones or pheromones or some kind of moans. That is grass releasing this chemical into the air. To be absorbed by other grasses and plants and flowers and things, to warn them that they are being damaged. It's a cry for help. It is them screaming, going, there's something fucking cutting me! So it convinces the rest of the flowers to, climb up, get your head down, don't make yourself too obvious. And because we don't pick up on that, because we don't understand that, we just go, smells nice. You are slaughtering grass by cutting your grass, but we don't see a problem with that because it can't bleed the same colour as us. It doesn't scream in a way that we understand it. The whole lambs with big eyes and people go, oh, that's really cute animals. And the reason we keep cats and dogs and things for a cutesy way is because they remind us of babies to a certain extent. The lizard part of your brain just kind of goes, right, well, it's got big eyes. Babies have big eyes. It's a baby. Look after it. Go on. It gives you little hormonal nudges to want to look after it. Makes you go, oh. So you're programmed to do this. That's why we love animals the way that we do. And the stupid thing is, we probably made the animals look like that so that we'd like them better. Or we picked the ones that did look like that because we were going, oh, and then we eat them. Because they're animals. I'm sorry, but I'm not quite sure where the disconnect is. Is it wrong to eat an animal? Or is it wrong to eat a plant? Why is it not wrong to eat a plant? Why is it not wrong to eat a fruit? That's the baby of a plant. That's where all its seeds are. You're essentially eating a cluster of eggs. If you won't eat an egg, why would you eat a strawberry? It just seems utterly ridiculous. It's just because it's too alien. So if actual aliens came down, flying saucers and stuff, would you eat them? Probably not, because they remind you of animals. They remind you of something that can move around, breathe. Again, plants do both those things. Something that can reproduce, and plants do those things. Basically, the definitions of life. If you're defining an animal by something that can make a noise, there are loads of animals that don't make noise. Pardon me. There are loads of animals that don't make noise. There are loads of animals that don't do certain things that you would ascribe to lots of animals. And then you've got fungi. Mushrooms aren't animals or plants. They are a kingdom all to themselves. And yet you'll eat those, but you won't eat animals. we're breaking from the script here, but and skipping ahead a bit. But cannibalism. What's wrong with cannibalism? We now know more about cannibalism, and that it's not as harmful as it previously was. Yes, there are diseases that you can get from eating human meat, especially if your diet consists exclusively of that, especially when you're eating certain parts of humans. But there are tribes that have been practicing cannibalism in the south of America that are now immune to that. That doesn't mean that we should all start eating each other. One of the things that's made cannibalism a taboo is the development of society. The fact that we've all settled down and agreed to live together. That's the whole, like, don't kill or eat people. And there are other people elsewhere that do eat their dead relatives. Because that's considered normal. Why is that a problem? Is it because it feels disgusting to you? Well, there are lots of things that seem disgusting to me too. I hate cephalopods. They are just the weirdest things. So when I see people eating octopuses and things, it's like, oh my god, why would you? Oh. That's just me. Oh, beetroot. Beetroot's just weird. I can't stand the idea of beetroot. Beetroot and squid. Whoa. Why would you do that? But anyway, I don't go around telling people that they shouldn't eat these things, because obviously they're delicious and nutritious, taste just like chicken. So why are you going around saying this, Gary? It's obviously not because you believe that humanity's made a misstep somewhere, because this is what humankind has done. You are the odd one out. Now, yes, you may have people that agree with you. There are lots of people that agree with you. But that doesn't mean they're right. This is the thing. You're seemingly claiming an absolute right and wrong. That yes, this is wrong, this is right, and I know. How do you know? What's drawing you to these conclusions? If it is just the fact that you're generally angry and upset at things, and you're seeing people making money off of what you see as the suffering of animals, and you don't like that, fine. Change the business practices. Get into that industry yourself and change things. Don't just attack it from the outside and claim that something's fundamentally wrong with the human beings that agree with that way of life, because unfortunately the human beings that agree with making money based on the suffering of others, just as a blanket term, yeah, there's something wrong with that. But there are people making money off the suffering of plants and animals, and we just culturally accept it. It's just the way things are. So unless you can come up with a better solution, I'm sorry, but you're just a rather prejudiced person who doesn't consider plants on the same order of living things as animals. And you're claiming that humans are prejudiced by not considering animals in the same order of life as humans. You're guilty of the same thing, just at a different target. And so I suppose in conclusion what I'm saying is, rather than being prejudiced, just be willing to accept that people eat everything. We are omnivores in almost the best way possible. There are people out there that eat aeroplanes and cars and pint glasses. People eat ridiculous things. So the idea that someone will eat a pig, enjoy it, feed it to the family, I don't see the problem here. I suppose on with the video. Where does the word humane come into the word slaughterhouse? Why are you asking that question? Why are you... Essentially, you're saying, is there any such thing as a humane slaughterhouse? After going, oh, slaughter, house of slaughter. Shut up. House of slaughter, slaughterhouse. Is there any such thing as humane slaughter? Right. No one said that there was humane slaughter. That's not even in the name. The name is slaughterhouse. It's very explicit what it does. Slaughters animals. Slaughterhouse. I suppose that's not explicit, that it's slaughtering animals, but it's explicit that things are dying in there. It's a slaughterhouse. Now, humane, not in there. I'm not seeing where humane comes in. Now, again, playing devil's advocate, let's say that the ultimate goal of mankind is to be as humane as possible in all of its endeavours. Humanely killing animals. There are humane ways to kill animals. There are humane ways to kill humans. The problem here, again, is definitions of humane. I get the impression, constructing my straw man on you again, that the only thing that would be humane in your eyes is the absence of this killing. But again, we get to plants. What's humane for them? Because if they're releasing chemicals that are warning others that they're being killed, essentially a scream, then why are we counting them as different? If a pig lets out a squeal while you're slitting its throat, well, most things would let out a squeal while you're slitting its throat. I don't see why they wouldn't want to let out a squeal while you're slitting its throat. That doesn't make it enjoyable. I'm not saying that I sit at home with my headphones and listening to squealing pigs getting slaughtered. It's not a nice thing to hear. Well, again, we're designed to not find it a nice thing to hear. There are some people that feel squeamish about surgeons doing open heart surgery. If you feel squeamish about that, then don't become a surgeon, but accept that people will be saving lives by doing this. Again, if you don't like the sound of squealing pigs and blood everywhere, then don't go to a slaughterhouse. Just accept that that's where your bacon comes from. I was about to say bacon and eggs. Eggs don't come from pigs. There just doesn't seem to be any sense to what you're saying. It is what I'm getting at, Gary. Oh, continuing on. Ooh, Gary. I believe you're coming on to me. So yeah, Gary Yourofsky has just asked, what is our definition of humane? That is a good question, Gary. Well done. You know what? Well done, Gary. You're doing good, lad. See, you're learning. You're learning. I'm just going to skip back a bit. Hold on. Exactly what is your definition of humane? Okay, so you weren't following up your what is your definition of humane. It sounded like you were trying to answer that question, but I figured maybe you caught yourself. And that's why we've kind of sidetracked onto a separate question here. So what you're saying is dismemberment and psychological and physical abuse. What else should we expect from a slaughterhouse? Slaughter. The killing of things. That's what I expect in the slaughterhouse. I don't expect psychological abuse. I don't expect physical abuse. As in, I expect a death blow to be had. But I don't expect physical abuse in a slaughterhouse. If there is physical abuse in a slaughterhouse, then that's a problem with the slaughterhouse. And if that's systemic, then that's a problem with the system in the slaughterhouse. But the actual death blow itself, I don't consider physical abuse. If someone's just kicking a cow to get his jollies, then that's fine. If someone's kicking a cow, period, unless that is what causes the death blow, then yeah, that's physical abuse, and that is wrong, and that should stop. Yeah, we're in agreement. That should stop. Does it happen? I don't know. Do I think they get belly rubs and tushy slaps? Well, yeah. During farming, farmers tend to care for their animals, you know. Okay, this is me relying on an anecdote. But there was a European girl that went to a barbecue in the UK and came across a vegetarian. and they were confused by this concept of a vegetarian. They're like, well, why won't you eat meat? That's weird. And then when this girl who lived out in the country in mainland Europe, Europe's a big place, I know. I have no idea. One of the northern countries, Scandinavia or something. Anyway, the main thrust is she was confused about what a vegetarian was, and she'd never encountered one before, because in her country, animals are well looked after. It's a well-respected job to be a farmer, and that you have to look after these animals. You have to make sure that they're well cared for and that you love them. And then when the time comes for you to, kill an animal to eat it, you do it in a very nice and kind way. In British farms, I know that in a lot of the open market farms and everything, but basically where everyone can, open market farms, the ones that are open to the public, that's very much the case. The farmers name all of their animals, they care for all of their animals, they look after them really well. They make sure that they get out and get fresh air and stuff. But there's no getting around the fact that, they're being farmed. I mean, we probably get the verb from the noun, pardon me. Yeah, they're being farmed for meat. You can be friends with them, that's fine. You can give them names, you can give them belly rubs, give them tushy slaps. Doesn't get around from the fact that you're going to be a hamburger on my plate soon. If you find that rather callous, then certainly don't step outside your front door. You're only considering it callous because these things look like us. Yes, animals look like us. There are certain taboos that we don't like these days, like, you wouldn't eat your cat, you wouldn't eat your dog. Why? Why wouldn't you? Well, I suppose, apart from the fact that they're fairly carnivorous, so they wouldn't be very good to eat. We wouldn't get a lot of energy from them for the amount of energy that we put into them. And we find a lot of companionship. And yeah, there are emotions there. But you can have companionship and emotions with your food. People care for plants. In a very Uncle Tom sort of way. The enslavement of radishes must end. Anyway, continuing on. Is there such a thing as humane slaughter? Is there such a thing as humane rape? It's not something that I would leap to. But I'm not taking it off the table. Just because I can't think of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yes, rape is a crime. And it's generally regarded as a horrible, psychologically scarring thing. Can I conceive of a time where rape would be humane? If I was abstracting my personal feelings about that particular crime, it's horrible. If I was to go from my gut instinct, under no circumstances should anything like that ever happen. But if it was a choice of every nuclear bomb in the world going off because some madman strung them all up, unless someone raped someone else, that wouldn't quite be a humane rape. It would just be a rape for good cause. Humane rape. No, I don't suppose rape can be humane. Because rape, essentially by its definition, is no. Yeah, because rape, by definition, is the abuse of someone else sexually. It's the physical sexual abuse of someone involving violation and penetration. And that can produce a lot of scarring, psychologically speaking. So there isn't really a humane way to do that, because for it to be humane, you produce the least amount of psychological scarring. That's why killing, just the act of killing something, is humane. Almost by definition, you are ending its life, therefore there's no suffering. Now, hurting it on the road to killing it, yeah, that's wrong. And again, if that happens, as there is video evidence that it does happen, there's also video evidence that rapes and murders happen. We don't condone those either. If there's a problem and you see it, report it, change it, stop it, do whatever. If you are genuinely not bothered about getting arrested for the furtherance of your cause, get arrested stopping the actual crimes from happening. Be fucking Batman, alright? Dress up in a cape and cowl and dive into slaughterhouses, grabbing a baby piglet under your arm in a Robin costume. I'm enamored of this idea now. Anyway, moving swiftly on. We're currently at 5 minutes 3 seconds. Moving swiftly on. I make awful jokes. Oh, hold on, I've got notes here that I've missed out. Oh, apparently you said the word murder, which I don't think I've picked up on. So at 4 minutes 39, I've written a note here that what is the definition of slaughter? Culturally, we view the killing of people negatively, presumably for the support of our society. Oh yeah, I did kind of go into this. This transference of the we... No. Sorry, I've written in cursive, so it's hard. It's so hard. My handwriting's shit. This transference of the use of the word to mean that the negative effect of killing a person equals the negative effect of killing an animal is absurd without the meaning ascribed to the life of an animal equaling that ascribed to a person. We don't have that equality between the lives of animals and people. Now, it seems that you're advocating for that, but that isn't the current cultural norm. And so you talking to us as if that's the current cultural norm and that this is an idiosyncrasy is a bit strange. It seems like you don't quite live on the same person as everyone else. On the same person? You don't quite live on the same planet as everyone else. I'm glad I caught that. That would have been weird to just shove into the final edit. 451. Murder is the wrong term. Again, mixing signals, but instead of using the negative associations of one context of word to apply to another, similar context, using the word itself wrongly in order to, again, bring the negative connotations to the fore. And torture? Evidence, please. Oh, I've seen videos. So, yes, there's evidence of torture, but there's no evidence that that's what all the meat industry does. Meat industry. In big inverted commas. Yes, there will be some company associations, and so that could be described as a particular industry. And you could call all meat cultivation the meat industry, but it's not one industry. It is a collection of industries that all produce a similar product. And not all of those industries are, in fact, industries in the right sense. They're not like massive conglomerates of companies that all agree on something. They are just individual enterprises all producing the same product, and that's kind of the industry that you're referring to. At 451, I'm picking up on the fact that by using the term the slaughter of animals and the slaughter of people interchangeably, you're trying to take the emotion attached to one and apply it to the other, which is just transference. It's the same word used in slightly different contexts. The word murder is wrong. That's just the killing of a person by another person. That's what murder is. Murder is the killing of one person by another person. So you can't murder an animal. You can't murder a turnip. You can't murder a mobile phone or a laptop. Pardon me. You can't murder things that aren't humans. That's just how the word is defined. It is a specialist word. Okay? If you wanted to expand upon what you've done elsewhere in the video by trying to bring animals into this other with us, with humans, then adopt and try and bastardize the term homicide. You know, that's one thing killing another thing of the same type. It's probably as close to a literal definition as you can probably get. The elimination of one thing by another thing that is the same type of thing as the first thing. So a cow killing a cow would be homicide. A sheep killing a sheep would be homicide. But if you want to expand that to mean that, well, basically an animal killing an animal is homicide, I think that would still be technically accurate, given the definition of the word from its root words. You could use homicide to mean that. So homicide would have been good, but murder not. Murder's a legal term. Moving on. Yeah, actually moving on. Humane child molestation and humane slavery. I suppose we covered this with rape. There isn't really such thing as humane rape or humane child molestation, humane torture, because these are all things that leave psychological scarring, and that would be the opposite of what I would define as humane. Now, granted, I'm probably using the wrong definition of humane. Let's just quickly look at what humane means. Because so far I've been arguing out my arse. Having or showing compassion or benevolence tended to have a civilizing effect on people. Okay. Having or showing compassion or benevolence. Definition of humane according to Google. Taken from, I'm sure, dictionary.com or something. Okay. In that case, humane means something slightly different to what I thought. Only ever so slightly. So, yeah, I suppose, in essence, yeah, that's slaughterhouses in that case would be, to a certain degree, inhumane. It would kind of depend on what you consider compassion and sympathy. Because, again, eating people is okay, eating animals is okay, eating plants is okay. Trying to change one of those things means that we then need to go back and define what each individual thing is. So if you're saying that killing animals isn't okay and killing humans isn't okay, but killing plants is okay, what are the key differences? Why are you creating this difference? What is the difference there? Why separate them out? Why not have one blanket rule for all of them? Now, I understand why we have one rule for people and a different rule for animals, because people we can talk to, we can interact with, we can have a society, a civilization where we're not needing to drastically change what we're doing or how we're doing it from one person to the next. We are of the same species and therefore human. So having one rule apply to all humans is fine, because all humans broadly, there are some occasional deficiencies and things that mean that you can't, but all humans, by and large, can understand this. A standard trait of the species is you could get a hold of this idea and hold on to it. Don't kill other people. Don't steal things. So that can come across. Not so with animals. You can't tell, because we don't have a common language. We can't communicate with each other effectively. You could try, make attempts, but again, you're going to need to domesticate the animals in order to do this. You're going to need to fundamentally change what they are in order to allow that to happen. They're just different from us. There's no getting around that. They're different. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Anyway. A humane holocaust. No, I can't conceive of a humane holocaust, no. At least certainly not in the only version of a holocaust that I am aware is actually a holocaust. Which is, the Jewish concentration camps in Nazi Germany and Austria and other places where Nazi Germany operated, or the Nazis operated. So, the Holocaust. I realise that the term is one that can be used for other situations and things, but I'm not aware of other Holocausts. And so, I've only really got the Holocaust that I know of to go on for what a Holocaust is. Because I don't rightly know. I've already looked at the definition of humane. Let's look up the definition of Holocaust. The Holocaust, also known as the Shoah, was a genocide. The Holocaust. Ah, right. Okay, so the word Holocaust comes from the Greek holos and kostos, meaning whole and burnt, respectively. And the Jews called it Shoah, the catastrophe. So it seems like Holocaust seems like it was a word created. Etymology and use of the term. Alright, okay, so apparently Holocaust originally referred to the animal sacrifices to a god, in which the whole animal is completely burnt, which happens frequently in the Bible. You know, that book of the religion for the people that you thought weren't told to do that. Anyway. Okay, so apparently, for a few centuries in the English language, the term Holocaust was used to describe huge massacres. I wouldn't describe a slaughterhouse as a huge massacre. It's the wholesale killing of large numbers of animals. I'm not putting them in the same pigeonhole as people. But if we were, would it be a Holocaust? Yeah, you could see a lot of analogous symbolism there. The wire fences rounding them up. They probably don't want to die in the first place. Nothing wants to die, really. Again, broadly speaking, you find outliers and exceptions to a lot of things. You don't find exceptions to rules, though. That stops them being a rule. Yeah, carrying on. Good on you, Gary, asking for the definition of a Holocaust. Good on you! So, essentially, according to my research, it's a massacre. So, yeah, are slaughterhouses holocausts? Holocaust zones? Are they massacres? Do massacres occur? I should call one guy with like a vacuum pumpy pressure thing to bolt through the skull. If he can single-handedly cause a Holocaust, then probably, yeah. Probably a Holocaust. Same thing with combine harvester. It's a wheat Holocaust. You're not allowing them to go anywhere. They're being slaughtered. They release chemical screams. Wholesale slaughter of innocent ears of corn and wheat. It's no different. Just because the animals look more like us than plants do. It's favoritism, is what it is. Favoritism. Well, it's certainly not a massacre of innocent beings, because as much as we demonise the Nazis for what they did, and what they did was fairly horrible, do you really think that no criminals were thrown into these camps? Or that every single Jewish person that was ever sent to a concentration camp was not guilty of some crime, whether tried or not? So you're saying that purely innocent people went into these camps? Given the sheer numbers of Jewish people that were executed, the sheer numbers of people that were executed, I would say not. The statistics don't back that up. There's probably a historian somewhere who's shouting at the screen, just kind of going, "There was a criminal, look, we've got a record." But we don't know for certain. We don't know what's going on there. Oh. Shit. I'm definitely editing this out. Okay, it looks like we are going to need to stop this at some point soon for my HUD TV meeting. Yay! Where the hell was I? I don't know. Holocaust and innocent people. Oh yeah, innocent people, guilty people. So yeah, there's probably there will be non-innocent people that were killed in the Holocaust. It wasn't just innocent people that were killed. So it seems odd that that you would say that. Why? Why are you saying that? Why? I already know the answer. I don't know why I'm feigning ignorance to try and get you to respond, because you're not there to respond, actually. So you're trying to elicit this idea in our heads that all Jewish people during the Holocaust were innocent, which is an assumption that we're making because they were unjustly killed, and therefore they must have been innocent. Not necessarily, so that's crumbling down. But let's just assume that they're innocent, or assume that people assume that they're innocent, okay? And then you take that to mean not just the slaughter of people, but the slaughter of innocent people is what a Holocaust is. So then you apply, well, if slaughterhouse is a Holocaust for animals, there must be innocent animals, because previously we've established that Holocaust slaughter innocent people. Holocaust slaughter innocent animals. Why would we slaughter innocent animals? They've done nothing wrong. So, people die, animals die, plants die. But we accept that it's fine to kill animals and plants for food, and for other things as well. We don't just kill plants and animals for food. We get other materials from them, but it's fine to kill them for our uses. We're just harvesting natural materials. It's just an arrangement of atoms in a particular way. We're harvesting that material. We've agreed not to do it with other people, because we don't want them doing it to us, sneaking it behind us, so we've made a generally safe environment. But yeah, we can't communicate with that with animals, and so, fuck them, kill them, use them. That's essentially what we're doing. You have a big problem with this, and I'm struggling to see where this problem is coming from. That's something that I'm honestly struggling with. I can't bring myself to see it from your point of view, because logic and reason keep getting in the way. Now, granted, a lot of that logic and reason is rooted in the fact that it's been happening for ages, therefore leave it alone. And there are lots of things that I disagree with that have been happening for ages. Religion, for example. But I'm not going around protesting religion, because I understand the cultural and social significance, the psychological significance of religion for a lot of people. A lot of people out there feel like they need their religion, and it creates a lot of psychological changes for people. Religion's great if we could harness what religion does to people in their brains that allows them to essentially have an emotional out for situations. That kind of mental gymnastics that you can do to recreate your life. That kind of born-again style thing, or to forgive yourself a great thing because you've confessed it, or something along those lines. The ability for religious people to move beyond emotional and psychological hardships. Now, granted, they're doing it because of a reward at the end, but if we could take that and just convince them that you getting over this emotional hardship is the reward at the end, you can achieve that reward, you have achieved that reward. If we could harness that outside of religion, that would be amazing. Psychologists, get on it. the show. Gary Yourofsky, you thought that a Holocaust was the massacre of innocent people. You are wrong. Just a slaughter of people. Don't have to be innocent. Ooh, how would you feel if all the prisoners in America, which is a sizable number of people, were all rounded up and executed, regardless of the sentence that they received? Would that be a Holocaust? But they're not innocent. I apologise, that was a very strong straw man. A very weak straw man. It's easy to rip down. It was a straw man. I'm sorry. Not for health, survival, or sustenance. Yes, we do kill them for sustenance. That sustains our survival. So, there's some impressive statistics there. 10 billion land animals and 18 billion marine animals. Pardon me. And we use most of those for food. Yeah, there'll be loads of them that we use for leather and whatnot, but we don't tend to eat the skin of cows. I'd imagine that we, try to economize and make it efficient, as money seems to be the driving factor according to your argument. And so we would kill them and get the food that we can and the raw materials that we can. So to that end, we could argue that the majority of these animals are being killed for their food, and thus the majority of animals are being killed for sustenance. So again, you're wrong, Gary. Ooh, these 4 reasons will be good. Also, we're at 548, and I've missed out my 522 and 549 ones, so I'll read those now. Predefining Holocaust with loaded terms. Yeah, we've already covered that. Claiming the killing of 10 billion plus 18 billion land and sea animals is not for sustenance is false. It's for food. Again, I've already covered that. My notes are useless. Habit, convenience, tradition, taste. I would argue habit and tradition are the same thing in the context you're using them. And you're implying habits and traditions that would have prevented our demise are bad. Our bad? Are bad. So essentially what I've written down there and some of the problems. I disagree with my note now that habit and tradition are the same thing in the context that you're using them. They're similar. They're drawing upon the same things, but habit, I would argue, is an individual person's, whereas tradition is the habits of a large group. So, similar things, but not the same. Habits that keep you alive, they're fine. But then again, growing orange carrots is a tradition. It's not for our survival. We could have had purple carrots. We did have purple carrots. Now we just have orange carrots. Is there a problem with just having orange carrots? Was it wrong of us to exterminate all the purple carrots? Is there a small clutch of purple carrots being grown just in a very small region somewhere just to protect the heritage of the purple carrot? If so, is that right? Is that wrong? I'm not clearly getting where your lines are from anything that you've said. And that's a problem. Because that means that I don't know where you're going to be coming from for the rest of this. Essentially, I've lost my train of thought. No, entirely lost it. Don't know. No idea. Okay, right. I'm going to bring this to an end just now. We're at 5 minutes 55 seconds, and I'm going to go to this meeting and then come back.